Hello and welcome to another video here at Movie Mash. And today we're going to review the new Fear Street 1666 Part 3. But we have a special guest here today, and it's Kevin from Screen Kings. Say hello, Kevin.
Hi guys, happy to be here.
He's my new friend. We've got to know each other recently, and we kind of got the same likes and dislikes. So I don't know about this one though, So I think we're just going to get along and see. This is a spoiler review, by the way. So if anyone hasn't seen it, get away. If you want to see the non-spoiler review, get on over to Kevin's channel and watch our non-spoiler review. It's entertaining, and he has a good channel anyway, so it's worth watching everything else in there. But anyway, getting on to the story. So we have Dana. Following
Dina.
her, Dana. I keep saying it wrong. I'm terrible with names. What's your name again, John? As I say, I'm terrible.
Okay,
with
I'm
names.
going to leave down.
You'll have to correct me a lot on this.
Okay.
So we're following Dana on from part 1 and 2, and we're getting to see what and how it all began, and who and what and who's done the bad and who's done the good. And we don't want to talk about it now, but now we get to talk about all about this. So tell me, what have you got to say? What is your dislikes and what is your likes about this?
Oh, you're asking the dislikes already? No. Okay, the main thing that I liked about this third part is we finally get to know the story of Sarah Fear. And I always know in my gut that the tale that's been passed along generation is not actually what happened. So it's a classic case of rewriting history because the main culprit here are the Goods, their lineage, who have been practicing witchcraft, trading shady side lives for the betterment of the Sunnyvalers. And it all makes sense. And it's easy because back in 1666, it's easy to cast someone as the devil just because they are homosexual, and that tale remains to live on to 1994, and we finally now learn that that is not the case. And I was just delighted by that subversion, because on part 1, my perception of Nick Good is this cop is so incompetent. I'm not really digging his character. Then part 3, we finally learn he's not incompetent. He's actually thwarting the plan of the teenagers. So I like that part.
Well, for me, what happened was it's just I have to say, for me, what I was thinking, what would have made it more of a twist for me if it turned out it was her. You see, it was heading towards Nick, Sheriff Nick, and I seen that coming, and I was thinking, do you remember the bit when she said she's going to deal with the devil because she's angry? Yeah, I thought, yes, now it turns out it was her. That's where I thought that would be a good twist, when it turns out she was the culprit. She is causing it all because she's angry of the way she's been treated because of, being gay and the way it's been going on. I thought, that would have been the better twist for me. But no, they kept doing it, Nick. I felt like that. I hated knowing. But I suppose, like yourself, me and you, we watch loads of movies and we see all the details and the signs. So it might not be quite for everyone to notice, but we probably analyze everything. But as I say, like that for me, I wish that they had gone with that. Now, we went into 1994. Is it 94? We went back into 1994, the second half. I felt like the film had about 3 endings. And that was a bit of a negative for me. But again, like it's a fun kind of a popcorn type switch off your head movie. And I don't really, I hate being negative towards it, because the film is self-aware. It knows what it is. Yeah. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. No, I'm like over the top. But as I say, like, I felt like the story was really good. I preferred the story on this than the rest of them. It felt like, and I enjoyed the character development more. Although, as I said, I was disappointed it was the same actors. But saying that, they weren't in it over too much, or the background or in the background, really, you know. But I mean, when it comes to positives, it looked great. It looked fantastic. I mean, the 1666. One thing I'll say about all of these, that I feel like they they've got it when it comes to. I've watched films where it's based in the 80s and the 70s, and it didn't really feel like that. It felt like this on these films. I felt like it was 78. I felt like it was. I'm from the 90s. I was a kid in the 90s. It felt like the 90s. I wasn't around in 60, so I'm not that old, 16, but it felt like gothic, kind of medieval Salem. So that was great. When it comes to the later half of the movie, I felt it was about 15 minutes too long. I mean, what do you think about the second half of the movie?
Well, I did actually like the second half of the movie. I was fine if they continued on with 1666. Then I think this might be too draggy for some of our viewers because they're just used of the vibrant colors of parts 1 and 2. But yeah, it's just turns out 1666 is just one part, then the rest is 1994, which actually I prefer it that way to still be long because I don't want 1994 arc to end on such a short notice. Like, okay, here's what we need to do, and boom, Nick Good is dead. Like, I actually did like it, and you know that title card that flashes like bam 1994 part 2, but and then we get back to some of the characters again. Even last edition of the character of that black guy, he's already here in part 1, but I find him incredibly funny. I wished he was given more spotlight in part 1. Yeah. And then a lot of unexpected things happens in the latter half. I think my favorite would have to be when the killers started to kill themselves. There's a bit of ridiculousness aspect to it when, you know, because these killers, they follow the scent of the blood, and the movie plays into effect its neon colors by mixing it with blood. Then it's a bit ridiculous, but again, it's a self-aware movie. And yeah, I mean, by the end of it, I just like how everything wraps up. I mean, we're probably gonna crash a lot in this. I guess things I did not like. So maybe right up to right now, I'm still confused on how. Maybe this is something that we can talk about. I'm still confused on how the killers work because part 2, I was pretty sure that only the Shady Siders will die, but if you're gonna remember in part 1, there's a Sonny Vailer, the boyfriend of Sam, who got killed. So maybe the criteria here, just to set the rules, if I understand this right, if you're a Shady Sider, you're in danger. If you're the blood of whoever touched the corpse of Sarah here gets into your body, you're in danger, or if you're getting in the way. So I think those are the 3 criteria. And
that's a good point.
Am I right? Or
you know, that seemed to have gone over my head. You're right. Yeah, I don't know what the. If anyone knows, get this right and has read the books, please comment below and let us know, because I actually that's a good point. That's gone over my head. I didn't pay attention to that. Yeah, it's a very valid point. What I wanted to say was, do you remember when the guy, he brought out the big CD player? You know, the earphones.
Yeah.
I thought that was really funny because I'm from the 90s and I remember having that, and you can't walk. It was you can't move, and it would jump, and it was too big to go in your pocket and all that. I like that, and I like the way they brought that. They're really good with all that with the 90s, and someone really sat down and wrote out how this is supposed to look and got it right. Do you know what I mean? In that sense. So I did enjoy it. But as you were saying about the murders, yeah, I mean, all I remember is he was naming the murderers on the wall, and they'd appear on the wall, wasn't it? Nick would appear, yeah, and whoever had died would come back. But I didn't. You're right. Actually, you know what? I need to rewatch all three and think about that.
I
That
think
just
you
went in there.
need to
Yeah.
rewatch because there's so much little details that I had my questions like why did the girl from part two, Ziggy, didn't die? Was it
Well,
because she touched? Because Cindy, who's holding the hand of Sarah Fear, ordered to spare her sister, or was it because by the orders of Nick Good, he tried
that's
to revive
what I
her.
was saying.
So,
Yeah.
what's the extent of the power of Nick Good? So, I think there's that particular aspect remains to be unanswered, and I might have to rewatch like what you did because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to think that they're going to think things through here. Because
No, I said that on my last review of part 78. I said, "How did she come back? Maybe we'll find out more." And you're right, because at one point we see Nick's over her body, and he's kind of. So I'm thinking, was it him who kind of gave her some kind of powers to revive her? Because she was pretty bad. I mean, to survive what she went through, I
multiple
was like, no.
times.
So I knew there'd have to be more to that, yeah. And you're right. Was it him? Was it actually him who
I
done that?
guess so.
Yeah, you see, now it could be that we need to rewatch it, but also might be down to storytelling as well. Maybe it wasn't quite, maybe went over our heads. Since the fact that it's gone over both of our heads, that might be storytelling. I don't know. But again, there's a lot to put into these movies. There's so much. So there's a lot. I mean, the spoilers we got to say are not big spoilers. They're little ones, but they're enough to ruin it if you didn't know about them. Do you know what I mean? As I say, it's no big twist. The big twist kind of happens halfway through the movie. And at one point, I will say I was disappointed that it was that early. But after watching the rest, I suppose we needed it to be for the rest. Do you know what I mean? We needed it to be then because we needed the rest of the film to go the way it did because it would have been silly at the end. He was too nice, Nick, in 1660. He was too nice to Dina. He was too nice to her. It was obvious to me. He was definitely
Okay,
upset.
I did not predict it. Maybe I haven't seen a lot of
He
horror
was
films.
just the only one in the whole village that seemed to be, apart from Dina and Samantha, he seemed to be the only other person that was very helpful, very decent. And I'm like, no, I've seen. Come on, I've seen enough horror films to know.
Yeah, and also I have to put out. It's so weird that last minute Nick mentioned something about "I love you, Dina." Like, where did that come from? I mean, they're joking around, having this romantic relationship in the earlier scenes.
To Ziggy.
No. When Dina, we're talking about 1666. Dina.
Okay.
Dina asked Sarah Fear with Solomon Good, the ancestor of Nick Good. They were having banters about having, I don't know, something romantic going on between them. And I thought it was just a joke. But then, in that climax, because this movie has a lot of climax, when Sarah's hand is eventually severed, he mentioned something, "No, I love you." Where did that come from?
Yeah. You're right. Because if there was something there, I missed it. Because I just felt like, because he felt like a lot older than her in general. Maybe in 1666 you can marry young girls. I know it's different then, but he just felt like he was more of an uncle who believed in her at the film.
That's why I felt it was a bit off when they were first introduced and they're trying to force this love angle. Like, oh, there's something between them. Okay, so then I forgot it because it's an LGBT story again. So maybe that part could have used a better rewrite, I guess.
Yeah, maybe like there was a confliction between the three. Like she's with one. She's with one. She loves him, but feels like she should be with her. That's where she's supposed to be. Maybe. So I put it in or don't. I'd leave it out completely. Don't put little things in like that. I do feel like it does deserve another rewatch now. You've actually got me thinking too much about all these
You
little things.
should.
Yeah. I know a few
Yes.
friends who've read the books, and I'd like to go over with them too. But I feel like there is a few things now you've actually pointed out that I hadn't thought of really, and it's now made me want to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Just for that alone. So thank you for that.
Well, just because I thought I haven't mentioned this in my non-spoiler review. What I like about part 3 is it gives value to part 1 and part 2, educated it more. The lore. Just when I try to connect the pieces together. Okay, that's why these things are happening in part 1 and part 2. Those little things, but since this movie is perfect for Halloween, I do hope this one gets a lot of, I think it's starting to get a cult following and come back by Halloween. I think this should be back on the top 10 of Netflix. I think it deserves.
I would definitely put it in a definite. Like I have a review that I did last October. It's my top 5 recommendations for Halloween. Just because a horror film is a horror film doesn't mean it's good for Halloween. I would now put this in as a trio, as in a recommendation for Halloween. If you're with your friends and you're having a Halloween night together, this is something that should be on the list. Even though it doesn't quite say Halloween on it, it just feels, for me, I felt like there was an element of, have you seen Trick or Treat?
I'm not yet. Not yet.
All right, well, I recommend that.
I heard it's good.
It feels like that was a Halloween film for me. And it had everything a horror movie has, like the old-fashioned slasher movies, Halloween and Friday the 13th, Scream, and all these are in it. And what else would you want for Halloween, really? This is what we're talking about. I reckon these are doing really well. I don't know what the ratings have been. I haven't checked in on this, and I don't know, but I got a feeling these movies are doing well. I'm hearing lots of buzz about it everywhere, So
I'm hearing positive things about this.
Yeah.
But there are still things that needed to be worked on.
Sorry, I lost you there.
There are still things that they pointed out how this franchise as whole is a bit over-eager when it comes to throwing that homage, and yeah.
Oh, you know what? It's actually part of what makes it good. The throwbacks and the homage to all the other things. Like I like that part of it. I mean, you're not taking away from Scream, or you're not taking away from Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You're just having fun with that. They didn't just base it on one horror film; they based it on all of them. So you can't know. So anyone that says, you know what, you don't know what you're watching. But I still think these are good movies. They're not the greatest, but I overread into everything. But I personally would give this a side thumb, a good side thumb, a solid side thumb, all 3 of them. But for me, you are definitely you give it. Give us what would you reckon? Then you tell me your recommendations. What do you think?
Recommendations for Halloween.
For this, you recommend.
I definitely recommend this one. I think it's campy enough to entertain different horror genre fans, and whether you come from 70s or your 80s or 90s horror, I think there's a lot of these things. There's a lot of things to appreciate here, and especially the characters. I think this is the strength of the franchise as a whole, because it's not scary. There was not a point that I just can't breathe, but it's fine for me, because after all, I'm more after the good story other than being scared. But I want to throw something, because by the end, the spell book is there and someone took it. So do you have any theory? Because I have one.
You know what? Okay. I didn't even notice. Again, I need to rewatch these.
What?
Did someone take the spell book? What?
Did you stop watching after that final shot of Dina and Sam kissing over the grave?
So.
There is a scene there. As you have to check it out. The credits roll, and we get tracking shots going inside the Shady Side Mall, then inside the basement where Dina and Nick Good fought. Then you get a close-up shot of the spell book, which remains to be in that sacrificial chamber. And then someone took it. There's a hand.
Oh,
Go
right.
ahead and rewatch that. But I'm gonna throw my fury there. I
Do it.
think it's one of the goods, because Nick Good, he they eventually he's basically exposed. Then his family denied him. We have no knowledge of what's happening here. Then I think the goods will try to continue this practice of witchcraft. That's what I'm thinking. So this franchise might be open for a sequel, which frankly I'm not surprised, because when it comes to horror films, sequels tend to be weaker. But in this case, you part is better like it. And I think it's already rare for a part three to suppress to be better than the first part. So yeah. You have to go
Um,
rewatch that.
well, yeah, but I mean, it might turn out that one of the people what we saw on this is a relation, but we just didn't know of Nick. There could have been a relation that we seen, but we just didn't know he was a relation, and it'll turn out
Oh,
that.
could it be
Or it could,
Ziggy?
I was about to say Ziggy, or it could be Ziggy in general. Like, I don't know, maybe there's a darkness to her that we didn't see, and they're going to show us because she has had a lot of issues. Do you know what I mean? Just speaking of Ziggy, she had a lot of issues with. You see her closing the doors and all the chains, but she seemed to come out of that quite quickly towards the end. But but yeah, I'm gonna have to rewatch these one after the other, binge watch all three, and pick up on what I missed, because the stuff that you're talking about, yeah, it's anyone anyone has a theory on what we're talking about, what Kevin's just brought up, please let us
Yeah.
know in the comments below. Put down your theory and what you got to say. But as I said, that's for me. I've got nothing else to say right now until I rewatch it. I might have to do another video. What about you?
Yeah,
You
I
got
mean,
any last things to
uh,
say?
I don't have any theories strong. Oh, there's just one Easter egg. It's not Easter egg. Well, I just appreciate part three again, because Kate and Simon are back here in the picture. I just like that their characters were essentially earlier versions of what they played in 1994. And in here, in part one, they're a bit of a drug junkies. And in part three, there's this berry that they ate, which kind of their version of a psychedelic drug. So I did like that touch that there's still a bit of a drug junkies in
Yeah,
this
yeah, I
party.
got what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I know.
and I also think that I think it's a wise decision to have Kiana Madeira play Sarah Fear, because she's just amazing.
She is a good actress. I mean, I, as I say, like I said before, I do think that she has a good future ahead of her.
Yeah.
There's a future for her. And she's a pretty girl. She's a good actress. I didn't like her, and I didn't like her character in the first one, but I did on this. So it just shows you how much she can make you. She can make me change my mind. I mean, there was a reason she had too much of an attitude in the first one, and even her attitude wasn't as bad on this one. She was playing a different character. Essentially, you see, she was playing herself, but someone else at the same time.
It's hard to do. Yeah.
No,
But
yeah,
it works for me.
it was like we're seeing her playing her, but playing someone else. So she's essentially playing two different people at the same time. That's pretty good, I suppose. Yeah, she's a good actress, and so the acting in that sense is pretty decent. I thought the acting all round was quite good, actually. To be fair,
Yeah. I haven't seen most of these young kids, and I'm
no,
impressed.
neither.
And
Yeah,
I always commend Netflix for taking this unknown actors up and coming, and elevate their status, because they're worthy. Yeah.
yeah. Well, for me, that's all I have to say. But I'm
Yeah.
personally going to give this a
I will-
side. But once again, Kevin, it was such a pleasure, and it's so good to have you on here. And
Oh,
I
pleasure is
enjoyed doing
mine.
yours. But for now, and until next time, I'll be seeing you later. Bye.